What's up, everyone? Big Dan here, and we're going to have a little bit of a different video today because I'm talking about an interesting situation that has developed in the Genshin Impact community. And even if you're not a player of Genshin Impact, you might find this story interesting. So basically, there is a content creator named MTashed. He's one of the biggest content creators on Genshin Impact. He makes guides, character tier lists, and other things to basically help out new, intermediate, and endgame players to Genshin Impact to really progress their account and have the best characters and team compositions possible. He's also a really funny and entertaining guy, and overall I like his videos. I've been playing Genshin for about 3 months. It's not something I talk about a lot on my YouTube channel here because I mainly cover single-player RPGs. Aside from one review that I did of Genshin Impact a few months ago, I don't really cover the game that much on this channel, but it is a game that I enjoy a lot. So yesterday, MTash posted this video talking about how he's basically blacklisted from Genshin Impact by the company that makes the game, Mihoyo. And basically how he found this out was when the big 3.0 expansion of Genshin Impact came out a couple of months ago. There was a contest that Mihoyo was running for content creators where you could earn Prima Gems, the in-game currency, and if you were one of the top content creators in terms of viewership on the game on Twitch, you could get up to $20,000 in gifted subs, which comes out to be about $10,000 before taxes. So for big content creators who covered Genshin Impact, it's definitely worth it to cover this game during that time period. Now, basically, MTashed is, like I said, one of the biggest content creators on Genshin, and he streamed during 3.0 and 3.1, and then recently he received an email basically saying that he would not be receiving any of the rewards from the content creator contest, despite having one of the top viewerships in the category for this game.
But the minimum I could ever possibly mathematically be is in the top 20. And so realistically, I should be paid out the gifted subs, but the amount of Primo Gems I should get, like, it's impossible not to get some. But for 3.0, I got nothing, and for 3.1, I got this email. We regret to inform you that the number of rewards sent for the streaming experience rewards in this event has reached its limit. Winners were selected based on average numbers of concurrent viewers. You did not receive a reward for this event. Now, on top of that, I didn't just get the base amount of Primo Gems that some channels with like 2 viewers got. If you just stream the hours, you get them. I didn't get those. But they're telling me that I didn't place, based on concurrent viewers, in a group to get a payout. And it just doesn't make sense mathematically. There is no effing way I'm not on the list. It's just not possible. Yet I didn't place. And if you go into the streamer event and you go into the text, it says, we have the right to refuse anyone at any time. They're Primo Gems, essentially. And so they've decided that they don't want to, obviously pay me for promoting their game. But it actually goes a little bit deeper than this. From what I've heard through the grapevine, someone reached out and they essentially said, yeah, Mihoyo knows about you and they don't want to work with you. And at this point, they don't even want to communicate with you. That is what was iterated to me. I got a anonymous email from someone, and obviously I'm not going to leak who that was, but they said, yeah, Mihoyo absolutely knows about you. You're not on they don't want to work with you. And maybe it's fake. Maybe someone made an email and they responded to, this tweet that I made because I was kind of saying, how is it even possible? Maybe they're just trolling. But I'm not in the creator server. I have never been reached out to from Mihoyo. And, then this happens, and it just seems very apparent that I'm like, blacklisted.
Now, you would think that, considering he's one of the biggest content creators on Genshin Impact, that Mihoyo would want to partner with this guy and help him out since he promotes their game a lot. Well, turns out that's not the case. Now, I will say that MTashed is somewhat critical of Genshin Impact. He's overall very positive about the game in terms of his coverage, but he does have some criticisms of the game, particularly the lack of really challenging endgame content for players who want to stretch their characters to the absolute limit. Now, with Genshin Impact, if you guys are familiar with the game, basically, once you've leveled up all of your characters or your main team and you've leveled up their equipment and you've gotten really good artifact sets on them, your characters will be so powerful that they can pretty much stomp any of the content in the game. There's not a whole lot of challenging content. There is a challenge dungeon called the Spiral Abyss, which resets on, I think, a monthly basis or maybe a bi-weekly basis. And that's basically the one area in the game where players who really want challenging combat can test their characters out and try out different team compositions and have a challenge. But like I said, if you've really leveled up a lot of your characters, even the Spiral Abyss is not going to be all that challenging. So content creators like MTashed have been somewhat critical of Mihoyo's lack of development in terms of creating more endgame challenges like new bosses or dungeons that would really stretch out these characters. And apparently, because of these criticisms, he's kind of gone on to the company's shit list or blacklist, as it were, because, like I said, he did not get any of the content creator rewards. But also, he does not have access to the content creator server, which Mihoyo gives early access to some of the new content and new characters in the game. So MTash talks about how it's pretty difficult for him to compete against some of the other content creators who make guides on Genshin Impact, because some of those people are able to post a full detailed guide on these characters the day that they come out, because in the weeks preceding their release, they were able to get early access to the game. And this kind of brings up something interesting that we talk about in games journalism and games YouTube content in general, is the very interesting relationship between content creators and the companies that make the games. Why do you think that a lot of game reviews that come out on big sites like IGN, or even from big content creators who make reviews like SkillUp, are largely extremely positive about the games? It's very interesting that it seems like every game review is an 8, 9, or a 10. Are we just getting masterpiece after masterpiece? Or are the content creators who are making content on these games and reviews and such being a little bit less critical of these games in order to maintain that access? Because as we see, even being mildly critical of a game can kind of put you on the shit list with the game's development studio if the people at that studio don't like what you're saying about their game. Even if you're one of the biggest content creators. Now, for a channel of my size, it's not really as big of a deal because I don't really have that level of access anyway. I'm getting almost to 100,000 subscribers, but I still don't really have any connections with game development studios. But for some of these bigger content creators, it's very interesting where if you're one of the primary people covering this game, to then have the studio that makes the game not like you or not want to partner with you or work with you, puts you in a really difficult position in terms of where you go with your channel and what type of content you make moving forward. This is also why it's dangerous as a content creator to only cover one game or one franchise. For the last 2 years, MTash has pretty much only covered Genshin Impact. He's done kind of videos here and there on a few other games, but his main game is Genshin Impact. And it puts him in a really difficult position when he's trying to make content on the game, and other content creators are kind of given special treatment, special access, and are able to put out new content on the game before he's even had a chance to see that content or really play it thoroughly. Because when it comes to reviews, and even now with guides and things on new games that are coming out or new expansions that are coming out, having that early access is super important for content creators. And I think it's why we see a lot of these companies and content creators being overly positive about the games, even if they have criticisms of them, in order to maintain that access. Because getting that access allows them to get all of the viewership or the bulk of the viewership on content that they put out after a release comes out. And this is why I largely cover older games on my channel, because it's easier as a smaller content creator to compete and put out content that gets viewership. Even with a game like Cyberpunk 2077, when I was making content on that game back in 2020 and early 2021, I had a difficult time getting viewership on those videos. But 2 years later, after Edge Runners came out and Cyberpunk sort of popped off again, I was able to capitalize on that wave and put out a lot of content on the game that got a lot of viewership, because a lot of the big content creators were not stepping back in to recover Cyberpunk 2 years later. So anyhow, if you do like Genshin Impact, go give Mtash a sub and check out his content. Hopefully he'll still be able to cover the game, and maybe also transition his channel into covering multiple games so that he has a little bit more flexibility with his own content and business. So there you have it, how this content creator got blacklisted from Genshin Impact. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to Big Dan Gaming for more RPG and commentary videos. Big shout out to all the channel members for supporting my content. Until next time, this has been Big Dan. I should go.